Hey guys, it's Greg Jones for Engine Builder. We are in Concord, North Carolina today at Prestige Motorsports. I'm joined by Doug Aitken. Behind us is a Shelby Mustang with a 427 cubic inch Ford engine, and it's our Engine of the Week.
Engine Builder's Engine of the Week is sponsored by Pen Grade 1, L-Ring DOS Original, and NPW.
Doug, thanks so much for giving us a little time here.
Yes, sir.
You know, chat this morning, come down to see the shop. Awesome place to see in person. And of course, we all, our eyes were caught by this Shelby Mustang out front here, and wanted to know a little bit more about the 427 inside it.
Yeah, so this combination, 427, is really a flagship style combination for us. I mean, we do anything from 500 to 600 plus horsepower. This particular package is 600, so it sports a solid roller, a little bit more aggressive cam for the guy that wants it, to talk to him. So primarily, obviously, Dart block or World Products block, so aftermarket. We do aluminum as well, okay. 4340 internals, just kind of all your standard equipment. We have the AFR CNC head or our new design head that we may show you here in a little bit. And then it obviously has the Borla induction. We do a ton of those things. So
yeah. Now the Borla induction always stands out, looks really sharp. How about some of the valve train components that you guys will put in a combo like this?
So typically, actually, when it was an AFR cylinder head, their pack spring, which is the AFR 8000, is actually perfect for that combination. So we still pull them apart, check valve job, lap it in, and then rate the springs, make sure everything's good to go. But nothing out of the ordinary. Guy can upgrade to a shaft rocker if they like. Typically, it's got either our brand, which is done by Scorpion Racing, just full roller rocker. So nothing extravagant.
Yeah. And Doug, how about the rotating assembly? That's what you guys typically use for crank rides and pistons. So
Eagle, Scat, LPC on anything that's say up to about 800 horsepower. So 4340 forged crank, H-beam rods, and then again, just based on availability, pistons, we use a lot of DSS, but we have in the past SRP Professionals, J&Es. If your flavor is something, you're brand loyal to Diamond, we'll use it. Yeah. I mean, we're pretty versatile in that manner.
Excellent. And then you said this particular combo is making about 600 horsepower.
Yep.
And we're going to get more into the horsepower and the tuning side of it here in a second. But I also understand this particular car has some history with the shop through a couple different owners even. They keep finding you guys and coming back to do different things with the engine inside. So tell us a little bit about the history of it.
Yeah, so originally, I want to say this shop was called Lucky's Paint and Body, and this was the first car he built from start to finish. So we were contracted for the engine, so it was still the 600, 427, but it was carbureted back then. It, I believe, had a March pulley system on it, a little bit longer nose on the water pump. So fitment later on in life, as it changed hands, became an issue with some of the requirements. So Lucky's Paint and Body did the car. He did the full build, and I think it went to Barrett actually and sold for a fairly good amount of money.
Yeah. And this is a 68, I understand?
67.
67,
I believe. Okay. I don't know. Is it a 68? Okay, 68. I stand corrected. But he did, so it's Heights rear suspension, independent rear. It's got the inboard disc brakes that just, it rides really good, but all I can say is when you're driving behind the car, it just looks bad to the bone,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, then it changed hands. I'm not sure exactly who was the owner. We did some upgrades. I remember doing a fuel system upgrade to this car, but it was still carbureted. And then it changed hands to this owner, and it came in, put the Borla on it, did the Billet Specialties front end. We upgraded the radiator. We're using a lot of brushless fans from like Wizard Cooling. So our deal is really radiator to fuel system. So we supplied all the stuff we used, we'll say, is almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And today it's what we've progressed to as far as technologies went on. So.
Right. Very cool. Well, Doug, we appreciate you walking us through a little history of the car as well as what's in the 427 Ford. And you do some tuning yourself, and you got a guy named Justin at the shop here that also helps do some tuning. And
Yep.
I think we're gonna get him out here to fire this thing up, maybe go for a little spin, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah, myself, senior in the dyno room, and then Justin's in the car shop here. He does a lot of the hub dyno tuning and remote stuff for our customers. So yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, let's hop in and take a ride.
Sounds good.
Safety first.
All right, guys, so we just got back from a little spin around the block here in this Mustang. It's awesome. Engine sounds awesome. Justin, I know you've got a role in that, helping here at the shop with some tuning stuff.
Absolutely.
So talk us through some of that. What's all involved in tuning a car, an engine like this, and what does it help with?
Well, they make my job real easy in the dyno room. They get a good base tune set up in there, and once we get the engine and set it in the car, I always like to start out with the basic checks. We got to have fuel pressure in the right spot, good vacuum line to the regulator, got to have good timing, so we like to check the static timing on it. And once all that's in there, we give it a good fire up and really try to dial in a good cold start tune for it, make sure it fires up nicely, and from there just a simple idle dial in, a little bit of return back to idle, and at that point we're ready to go down the road and just dial in a good drivability, make sure the thing tips into throttle really well and follows through with acceleration.
Yeah. And then Justin, talk about just being able to fire up the engine and get all that tuning dialed in. How does that help the customer ultimately, with any problems they might see if you guys weren't doing all that stuff?
Sure. On a remote tune basis, we look for all the simple basic checks that we would do in shop. And a lot of times it just prevents them from getting into trouble if they have bad fuel pressure. Let's say it's just too high. Well, they're immediately going to see a rich condition. They're going to see it trying to pull a bunch of fuel, and it's going to raise some red flags if they don't know what they're looking at. Well, they might think something's wrong with the system, when in reality it's just a little bit of setup that needs to be tweaked, and they're rocking and rolling. Yeah. So it ultimately helps prevent us from having a product that doesn't work right for the customer, and it helps the customer from being their own enemy. We want to make sure that everybody can be rocking and rolling as easily as possible.
Right. And you want to make sure that the 600 horsepower this engine's got is
absolutely
giving it to you all the right ways, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. Well, Justin, we appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a little spin here in the car.
My pleasure.
Guys, that's been this episode of Engine of the Week. I want to thank Justin and Doug and everybody here at Prestige Motorsports. Make sure you're checking out everything that they've got going on. And as always, make sure you're checking out enginebuildermag.com for more engine content. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys next time.